Hey there, and welcome to episode 96 of Common Knowledge, the show where I take a look at Magic the Gathering commons and tell you, are they good in the Pauper format or not? We are so close to 100. Are we going to get anything good in the lead up? Let's hope so. We'll start with Sonic Seizure, which is a single red mana for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card at random. Sonic Seizure deals 3 damage to any target. Have we done this one before? I feel like we've done something like this before. You know what? I'm going to score this one, but not count it. So you get both the benefits. Let's. This is not. I would not say this is great. I feel like I've done a card like this before, and when I did a card like this before, I probably said something like, "Oh, maybe the Madness decks would want this because they like discarding cards and then being able to pay their Madness costs." But when you discard the card at random, you don't really get the option for that. So it's nice to have copies 4 through 8 or 5 through 8 of Lightning Bolt. Although if you're in the Madness decks, you already have copies 5 through 8 of Lightning Bolt. I forgot what the card's called, but you already have like a Madness card that does that. So where does this go? I don't really know. And so I think you can give it something like a 2.2 maybe, but I just don't think it really has a place. Let's keep going. Matsu Tribe Sniper is a 1/1 Snake Warrior Archer. And you can tap it to have this creature deal 1 damage to target creature with flying. And whenever this creature deals damage to a creature, tap that creature and it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. A Betrayers of Kamigawa card, which is fun for me, but this isn't anything all that great. It's nice that it can snipe flyers. Maybe this can deal with fairies. That's a popular deck, or there's lots of other things that fly as well, but fairies is the big flying deck in Pauper. And I do kind of like, hey, even if you can't kill the fairy or you can't kill whatever, it still stuns it for a turn. That's pretty nice. And it's still a 1/1, so it can still block on the ground. So if you did block a creature that the opponent's bringing in, as long as that guy doesn't have first strike or something, you get the stun ability on a ground creature as well. I think this is okay. We have slightly better things for fairies. There's an elf archer, I think, that can tap and deal 1 damage to each creature with flying, and you use that in sideboards for fairies over this guy, almost assuredly. But I don't think this guy's too bad. He takes down. He doesn't take down, but he slows Glinthawks pretty well. I don't know. For a Kamigawa card, this is relatively well costed and has a pretty solid effect. I don't hate it. I'm going to give it a 4.3. Yeah, that's a pretty good score, honestly. Unwilling Ingredient is a single black mana for a 1/1 frog. It's got Menace, and you can pay 2 and a black and exile this card from your graveyard to draw a card and lose a life. You know what? There are worse things you can do with a single mana. 1/1 Menace, and it has some value later in the game. You could also, if you're milling this thing, you just put it in your graveyard, and now you got a card draw spell. That's cool. That's kind of cool. There are more impactful black 1-drops, and you play all of those instead of playing this instead. But this, in a vacuum, this is a pretty solid card. Pretty solid card. It'd be nicer if it was a 1/1 Death Touch, but 1/1 Menace isn't too bad either. I'm gonna give this a. Let's give it a 2.5. Golden Egg is 2 mana for an artifact food. When this artifact enters, you draw a card. Then you can pay 1 and tap and sack this artifact to add 1 mana of any color, or you can pay 2, tap and sack this artifact to gain 3 life. Because it is a food, it does the food thing. Golden Egg, I think, used to be a little bit more playable, and then you had cards like Lembas come in the Lord of the Rings set, and Prophetic Prism got brought back into the format. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. This is a good card. It's an egg. It's literally an egg, but it's also figuratively what Magic the Gathering calls an egg. There's all sorts of cool things you can do with this. You know, it comes into the battlefield, draws you a card. It can kind of be like an Eager Wellspring in that way. Or you could sacrifice it to your Fanatical Offering effects and draw even more cards. And it does the affinity thing for a little bit while it just sits there. It mana fixes you. It can gain you life. This does a lot of really cool things, but instant ramen is instant speed, which can be more useful to you potentially. Nutrient block costs less and is indestructible, and you can do stuff with that. That has to be sacrificed to draw the card, but still. Lembas is, gives you the scry and then the draw, and then it can keep going back into your library and be played over and over and over again. Those are all things you have to weigh when you're thinking about playing a card like Golden Egg. Golden Egg's not a bad card. I'm not here to say this is a bad card. I'm going to give it a good score. I'm going to actually give it a 5.1 because I think it still does see a tiny bit of play in some decks. The problem is we just have so many good eggs at this point that even this one being golden, I don't think it does enough for it. Let's keep on going to Monk Idealist, originally from Urza's Saga, and has been downshifted into Eternal Master. So it must be good, right? Must be pretty good. It's part of the Urza's block. That was a notoriously busted block, and now it's been downshifted. Whew, must be good. 2 and a white for a 2/2 human monk cleric. When this creature enters, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. That's not that great. That's an Auramancer, right? Isn't that just literally what Auramancer is? Auramancer. 3 mana, 2/2, and it enters enchantment card to your graveyard to your hand. That's the same card. Auramancer also in Pauper. And it's got Rebecca Gayart, so you know which one I prefer. But this is fine too. There's nothing wrong with this. In fact, maybe you need these creature types instead of human wizard. So if you're doing something with clerics, I guess this is a decent card to play with. Was it always a cleric? Yeah, it was always a cleric. But if you're going wizards, you want Auramancer. I don't think it really matters either way. These are both fine cards. They don't really see any play. They could though. I'll give it a 3.5. But I would play Auramancer. Halberdier is 3 in a red for a 3/1 human barbarian with first strike. That's it. That's all it does. I love the card art on this one. I always have. 4 mana for a 3/1. It's real easy to pick this thing off. There's a lot of things that can do just a single damage here or there and just snipe this guy. But if it's not sniped, the 3 power first strike guy is a really good blocker and a really good attacker. Those are things you got to consider. But the other thing you have to consider is you're in red. Does red really want to spend 4 mana on this guy? I think red can find better things to do. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad because I think this is a cool card. I'll give it a 1.8. The 1 toughness really does hurt it, but it's cool regardless. Stonework Pack Beast is 2 mana for a 2/1 artifact creature that is a beast. Stonework Pack Beast is also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. You can pay 2 to add 1 mana of any color. So it kind of filters. It's kind of an energy refractor. I think that's what the card's called. On a body. 2/1 bodies, not awesome, but an energy refractor that's also kind of a Savannah Alliance. I mean, I know it's not really a Savannah Alliance because it costs 2 mana instead of 1, but you know what I mean, the stat line at least. And it has the party stuff, which is cool. And it's a beast, which is also kind of cool. You can do stuff with beasts and drawing cards off of playing beasts. But it being a cleric, it being a warrior, I mean, honestly, any of those creature types have potential other benefits. But I don't think this card really would see play too much in a Pauper deck. There's not a whole lot of party mechanics that I can think of that get used in Pauper. And that's this guy's kind of shtick. So if you're not doing party mechanics, what are you playing this card for? You have other options available to you, and you should play those instead. Score wise, I think I'm going to give it. I think it's actually a little worse than the Halberdier. Yeah, I'm going to give this a 1.6. It's not that great. Circle of Protection green. I don't think we've done. Have we done these Circle of Protections at all? I'm not sure if we have. This will be. I'm going to just talk about all the Circle of Protections right now, but we'll specifically focus on green for a second here. Circle of Protection green, cop green, as some people might say, is 1 and a white for an enchantment, and you can pay 1, and the next time a green source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. Okay. What are the colors? Let's kind of rank them by colors. On the bottom is blue, for sure. Blue is not doing a lot of direct damage. Its creatures are not usually that big. Circle of Protection blue is a bit of a waste, honestly. What would be next? I guess I would go. I think white and black are kind of a tie. White might be a little under black, and that's only because white is going wider, and you'd have to pay more times to blank more white creatures. But white also has a lot of damage-based removal as well when you're doing so much damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Not that that shows up in Pauper a whole bunch, but it's still a thing that happens. Sunlance is a card that gets played in Pauper sometimes, and that's a white damage dealer. Black is somewhat in the same boat. I guess black has bigger creatures generally that you and fewer creatures, so you can blank more stuff in black. You know, if you're blanking a carrion feeder, that's pretty good. If you're blanking a mortician's beetle, that's pretty good. But also the black, black does have some direct damage things. Like, is it Defile? Does Defile actually do? Let me check that real quick. Does Defile do? No, it gets -1, -1 for that. There's another one that's similar. It might not be in common, but there's another one that deals damage based on the number of swamps you control. So I think white and black are generally tied and with different reasons on why that is. And so then you're left with red and green. And I think red would probably be second, because you are getting a lot of direct damage things, you know, your lightning bolts, your shocks, spitting earth. Nobody plays spitting earth. But red does have a lot of direct damage effects, and it's nice to be able to blank those things, and you end up saving a lot of your guys that way. But green has the biggest individual creatures, and when those guys lumber in, it's nice to be able to blank one of those guys. I guess there's also Circle of Protection artifacts, but I don't think that one's really as relevant either. But yeah, I think the green one is probably the best one. It's one that I might see in sideboards. Red, I guess, could also potentially see in sideboards for a white deck. These don't see a ton of play, but I do occasionally see a copy or two thrown in a sideboard, and I think they're fun. I never played in a Magic set that had Circle of Protections. I imagine they slow the game way down, but they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. They also have lots of good arts in them too. I like this 5th edition one. I like this Tempest one too. The Tempest ones are, you know, the art on them is pretty cool. Yeah, they've done some cool Circle Protections. If we're just rating the green one, I think this is the most Pauper playable in sideboards, and as a good sideboard piece, I'll give it something like a 5.5. I would give the whole Circle of Protection cycle here probably something like maybe just like a straight 5, and then something on the low end for blue, I would probably go for like a 2. The blue one really is pretty bad, but these are interesting cards. Norwood Archers, Rebecca Gay art. Yeah! It's 3 and a green for a 3/3 elf archer with reach. That's all it does. That's not very good. Little underrate. Reach is not the greatest ability. You have cheaper elves that you play in your elf deck. This is not good. But the art's good. And that's important too. Let's give this thing a 1.9. Right under a 2. Updraft Elemental is 2 and a blue for a 1/4 flying elemental. That's all that is. Yeah, that's not great, is it? It's, in some ways, better than a Windrake. In some ways, slightly worse than a Windrake. It is an elemental. That matters a little bit. Maybe a little bit more now that Lorwyn Eclipse is out, but not really. Not really. I'm gonna give this. It is a 1/4 flyer that can block a lot of stuff. I'm gonna give this a 1.5. Still, yeah, it's you're still paying 3 mana for kind of a crappy creature, but it's okay. Let's do a bonus card and then get out of here. Sigil Blessing is a Selesnya mana, green and a white for an instant. Till the end of turn, target creature you control gets +3/+3, and other creatures you control get +1/+1. Huh. That's okay. It's a giant growth, and what's a 1 mana white spell that gives all your creatures +1/+1? I'm sure there's one out there. I'm just not thinking of it. So it's one of those where they kind of smash two cards together, Lightning Helix style, and that's all right. That's all right. It's not all right enough that you need to play this. There's the mono white decks that go wide can't play this really because of the green, and the Selesnya decks that I can think of, and the only one I can think of that might kind of enjoy it is Slivers, but even Slivers doesn't really want this because it doesn't want to ruin its Lead the Stampede or Winding Wave value. It just wants creatures, and the Slivers can pump themselves enough that you don't need a combat trick to do that. They just will do it on their own. So, yeah, I don't think it really has a place. It is a fun card. I do appreciate the funness of the card. Potentially a good cube card if you're playing some cube or making a cube. But for our purposes here, I think we can give it a straight 2, understand its value, and understand that it's not really necessary here. But we'll leave you there. We're so close to 100. I can't wait. See you then.